You know, walking into any restaurant, no doubt one is actually greeted by piles of perfectly ripe fruits discarded carelessly, left to rot under the scorching sun. It was as if Mother Nature's bounty was being carelessly disregarded. Now, while thousands of people went to bed hungry each night, this scene is not isolated to a particular city in Nigeria, but rather a reflection of a pervasive issue that plagues Nigerian society: the staggering amount of food wastage. Food waste in Nigeria is a serious problem that has far-reaching consequences. Now, according to reports by the Food and Agriculture Organization, it estimates that 14 million tons of food is wasted in the country every year, making it one of the highest contributors to food wastage in Africa. Now, this staggering amount of waste is equivalent to nearly 25% of the total food produced in the country. Consumer behavior is a major contributory factor. The consequences of food waste are far-reaching, both on food security and, of course, the environment. So on Panorama today, we'll focus our attention on managing food waste in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ruth Aguwele. Welcome.
Nigeria and Indonesia are like two sides of
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made a global commitment that Nigeria's ongoing reforms are in solidarity with other nations to revive and strengthen multilateral cooperation. The president was a delegate at a high-level forum on a multi-stakeholders partnership and the second Indonesia-Africa Forum in Bali, Indonesia. Let's hear details from Salihu Guanara.
Nigeria and Indonesia are like two sides of the same coin with decades of friendly business relationships. Indonesia African Forum is another opportunity for Nigeria to boost its networking for economic growth and create more jobs.
Nigeria is open for business. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been very consistent in that. He has said that all investors are welcome to Nigeria. We are putting a Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to help businesses outside Nigeria to come and flourish in our country. Nigeria, more than ever before, is ready for businesses. Unlike before, you don't have fear that your monies or your capital could be trapped into the country. Once you come, you do our businesses, provided it is within our legal procedures. Whatever profit you make, you take out. So we encourage everyone, not just Indonesians, all investors around the world to come to Nigeria.
The president's delegation assured that the current administration remains resolute to promote even business opportunities by would-be investors in Nigeria.
This is part of the reason why we are here, to deepen that collaboration, to deepen that understanding, so that there will be a reciprocal business relationship between Nigeria and Indonesia. Nigerian businesses are expected to also come here. And like I said earlier, over 50 businesses of Indonesians are already operating in Nigeria. We want to see that reciprocated here. We want to see Nigerian businesses come here. At the end of the day, Nigeria and Indonesia will all be better for it.
In addition to the main event, Mohammed Idris assured that Nigeria's investment potential will equally feature prominently through bilateral engagement with relevant investors. In Bali, Indonesia, Salihu Guanara, NTA News.
Of course, you can see that the president was represented by the Minister of Information and National Orientation. We turn to other issues. China is reaffirming commitment towards strengthening collaboration with Nigeria in the area of cultural exchange. Chinese Embassy's cultural counselor and director of the Chinese Cultural Center, Abuja, Li Shuda, stated this at the 2024 China-Nigeria Fashion Show. We'll get all the details now from Chukunonso Nwabweze.
Since establishing diplomatic ties in 1971, China and Nigeria have continued to enjoy mutual relationship. This fashion show depicting the rich cultural heritage of both nations, as seen in these attires, fabrics as well as the costumes, is another step at deepening the cooperation towards a shared prosperity.
Through this fashion show, we can see that it really demonstrates the best of China and Nigeria. Through fashion, I think is a very important part of our culture. And you know, Nigeria, China, in our both countries, fashion is very popular.
I would say that the DNA that was present today was more of a cultural, say, relation between Nigeria and China, and that was so very beautiful.
This year's show brought together both young and adult participants from both countries, showcasing the very best of their local attires to the admiration of fashion enthusiasts.
I'm Ibibio by tribe, and I love my culture, and this is the Onyonyo dress, which is properly worn by us. I feel so great showcasing this wonderful attire.
Representing my Igbo culture with my attire. This is how we dress in Igbo land.
As outstanding participants in this edition are rewarded with cash prizes of between 30 and 150,000 naira for their performances. The Chinese embassy is also working on holding a training session in China for Nigerian local fashion designers and their Chinese counterparts in order to take their cultural collaboration to the next level. Chukunon Sonwabweze, NTA News.
Well, after a bountiful harvest, one often feels a profound sense of accomplishment and gratitude. It's a mix of relief and joy. That's the feeling, right? Knowing that the hard work and patience have yielded a rewarding outcome and a deep connection to the rhythm of nature's abundance. This was the atmosphere at the All Saints Military Protestant Church, Mogadishu Cantonment. That's their annual juvenile harvest and Thanksgiving service. Olajide Bello captured the moment for us.
It is definitely not May 27, which is the internationally recognized Children's Day, but this particular day is to celebrate children as they take center stage, displaying their mastery in scriptures, motivational speeches, inspirational songs, and choreography. Nicole, 11, wants to be a chef, while Praise, 12, wants to be a doctor.
They've been taking me to church, I've been learning, be reading all night, and they push me away from bad friends.
They teach me how to be a good girl, and they buy books for me and things. Mommy have been helping me, teaching me how to crawl from baby to kid.
The chairman, Harvest Committee, and other parents bear their minds on parental and religious roles in child upbringing.
The theme of this year's harvest is supernatural healing. We are praying for healing for the land, we are praying for healing for the church, and we are praying for healing for individuals.
It is our hope, it is our prayers that each and every one of the kids be blessed supernaturally.
The only thing that can help the child go through the crisis of the present generation, which the Bible spoke about in the end times, it is Christ. Give them the message of Christ as the Savior.
We're thanking our wives who were also around to help mold the children. But I must tell you the truth, it wasn't easy bringing them up while in service.
It is our responsibility to train them in the way of the Lord.
The healing grace of God rests upon them so that they will become the light, the future, the hope of the country.
Cutting of the harvest cake, special prayers, and Thanksgiving climaxed the event. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
On the contrary, while some are celebrating bountiful harvests, there's food waste in the country, which is a major problem that experts in agriculture want deliberate measures to be taken in reducing the alarming wastage, both from post-harvest level and even those prepared as meal. Now, this, they observed, has far-reaching consequences as the nation's food security efforts and negative impact we see on the environment. We had a discussion with Mr. David Michael. He's a team lead, Global Food Initiative. So let's bring you the excerpt of that interview. All right, joining me in the studio to discourse on food waste in Nigeria, we have Mr. Michael David, a climate change expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Michael.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You heard the statistics of FOA on food wastage in Nigeria. What's your reaction, especially when you see food being wasted, when on the other divide, people are going hungry?
So looking at the situation of food inflation in this country at the moment, and the prices of food and people going to bed hungry, it is very scary to know that we have this percentage of food being wasted. And the primary source of food waste basically in the country are two. First, food waste from the farm, that is post-harvest losses. 40% of the food we produce go to waste during harvest, post-harvest, because of lack of storage facilities, especially the cooling systems. The second one is food waste after preparation of food. So it's very common in Nigeria. You go to weddings and then you see food wastage, practical. Why many are hungry, people would cook lots of food, and a festive period, Salah, Christmas, and all those weddings, lots of it goes to waste. And the major issue and the implication of this on our environment is huge. First of all, food waste contributes to climate change. One of the major potent gas for greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change is methane. That smell that when you pass through a dump site and you perceive, it comes from food waste. So all of this food, when they are discarded, they decompose and produce that gas, which is very dangerous for the environment. Secondly, it is resource wastage. So when food is being produced, or even when it's cooked, energy is used, water is used, and all of this go to waste. But, yes.
Okay, so this brings us to the issue of storage. You mentioned weddings, parties, and all of that, but even in homes, people waste food. You'll be amazed at the level of that. Storage is one way, well, they say it is one of the major causes because people lack storage facilities and all of that. What would be your recommendation?
So people should buy food at when needed. It's healthier. You are buying fresh food instead of buying large quantity of food and you lack the storage capacity for this food. And one good thing that Nigerians are doing now is to convert food, into other products. It's another way of storing food. But when you go to the market, instead of buying one full basket of tomatoes that you cannot store, due to the power issues and all, you buy what you need. It's more healthier. Growing up in the village, you know how it is. You cook fresh food, you consume, and then the next day you do that. But I know we have working mothers, everyone is busy these days. But there is no reason why you should buy so much food and then you store. When you need to use them, you discover that they are all bad, So, but it does not end there. That it is bad and it is thrown away to the environment is not the final way. So when you throw away, what does it really mean? There are two things we can actually get out of food waste, and if we can take advantage of it. And the very first one is organic manure. The country is suffering from lack of fertilizers, from land degradation. And one of the best ways to reclaim our land and our soils is the use of organic manure. So food waste provides in abundance organic manure that we can use to reclaim our soil. The second one, which we also complain about, is gas for cooking. We can actually get biogas from food waste. That pungent smell that we perceive when we pass around dump site is actually a gas that can be used as a source of cooking gas for homes.
Okay, and when you mentioned tomato, I'm not sure anybody want to buy a basket of tomato at this time and put it to waste. But there are different ways you can store that, right? But let's look at food security, which is very critical, especially for this administration. It's part of the 8th priority agenda for the administration. But let's look at the role of the private sector to support the federal government's efforts, in ensuring that food security thrives in the country.
So value addition is one major gap that already exists in the country when it comes to issues of food. A lot of our farmers who produce food, they are not able to store, they lack the capacity to store, so they sell off everything after harvest. And then the middle class people or the middlemen come in and buy this food. They are able to store, but they sell to us at very exorbitant prices. And that's one of the issues with food insecurity in the country at the moment. So what we need the public sector to do is that value addition. Right now, Irish potatoes is the boom period, harvest. The farmers are selling. Many of, because they cannot, store them. So, but the private sector can actually, have like Irish potato processing, tomato processing we already have in the country, and then all those take off so that we can help these farmers. If you look at the amount of food wasted, if you go to Use Market or you go to the My 12 Market in Lagos and see the trailer loads of food coming from the north part of the country, you discover that 50% is wasted because of, bad roads. Some of these trucks, break down on the road for a number of days. So if you have a private sector that will develop something like cooling storage systems, in communities where communities can store, their food, and you pay something small in the end, it's another way of, it's a 50-50 for everyone.
Yeah. Indeed, Mr. David. And just on a final note, it's good you started talking about the processing that could add value to this food. You didn't even mention fruits. The private sector can play a critical role if we're talking industrialization in Nigeria. But we have our challenges when we're talking, if you want to look at industrialization, the aspect of infrastructure, having the right infrastructure. What's your take on that?
Yes, infrastructure is key. And you cannot rule out power out of this. And that's why we, as climate activists, we see a big opportunity with renewable energy. And good enough, we have some people who have come up with simple storage systems where communities can store fruits, in fishing communities where they can store fish as well. So the private sector... That
drying process?
Yeah, no, the cooling now. We're talking of fresh fish. Okay. But the drying is also another way.
It's part of preservation.
It's part of preservation and also value addition. We know how much we value our dry fish and fresh fish in this country. So if we take advantage of renewable energy, we're looking at solar here, we're looking at all the critical minerals that we have for the production of renewable energy systems in the country. If we can take advantage of that, we are good. We actually have no business importing food in this country. We can feed ourselves.
Indeed, Mr. David Michael, thank you so much. We have what it takes to feed ourselves. And please, you have what it takes, not talking to you now, David, but to Nigerians, to feed your neighbor. Come on, let's give that food out instead of throwing it away. Thank you so much, Mr. David Michael, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. The World Meteorological Organization, that is WMO, says Africa is facing a heavy toll from climate change, with many countries spending up to 9% of their budget on mitigation. In the weather report released this Monday, the WMO states that Africa's temperatures have risen more rapidly than the global average, despite producing far lower greenhouse gas emissions than other continents. The report reveals that the continent is losing on average 2% to 5% of GDP in response to deadly heat waves, heavy rain, floods, and prolonged droughts. It further estimates that sub-Saharan Africa will need to spend $30 to $50 billion per year over the next decade to manage climate change. The WMO therefore urges countries to invest in state meteorological and hydrological services and to speed up the implementation of early warning systems to save lives. In other news, Zamfara state government has donated 100 million naira and 10,000 bags of assorted grains to the victims of the recent flooding in Gumi local government area of the state. Governor Dauda Lawal, who announced the donations while on a sympathy visit to the affected communities, also unveiled the state government's plan to resettle the victims. Jamilu Ibrahim reports.
Sand flooding in Gombe local government area of Zamfara state, which submerged thousands of houses, farmlands and livestock, has resulted in massive displacement of households, the situation requiring urgent intervention of the relevant authorities. After receiving reports from various committees immediately deployed by the state government to commiserate with the victims and assess the situation for appropriate action, Governor Dauda Lawal is now at the ravaged communities to see things for himself. The Emir of Gome's palace was the governor's first point of call, where he sympathized with the emirate over the sad event and announced the state government's donations of 100 million naira and 10,000 bags of assorted grains to the victims. This is in addition to the allocation of a plot of land away from the danger zone to each of the households that lost their shelters to the flood. The Emir of Gome, Justice Lawal Hassan retired, who said more than 10,200 households have lost their houses to the flood, applauded the governor for his concern to the plight of the victims. The governor was also in Ngeri district, which appears to be the community was hit by the disaster, where he assured them of the government's commitment to taking proactive measures to guard against the reoccurrence of the tragedy.
We are also going to build drainages as well as try to make sure we work on the dams and if possible provide additional dams that will take care of the situation.
Members of the community were obviously pacified by the governor's visit as they came out in their large number to accord him a rousing welcome. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
The military has reacted to a video depicting alleged killing of several civilians and buried in a mass grave in Sokoto State. Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, in a statement says the incident was not in Nigeria, but rather a nearby African country faced with terrorism. He noted that the terrorists, in an act of desperation, tried to manipulate the situation to mislead members of the public. The armed forces added that at no time were 150 persons abducted in Gobir in Sokoto State, noting that the rumored abduction was deliberately created to undermine troops' efforts and cover up terrorist weakness. The military urged Nigerians to be mindful of the antics of the terrorists propagating misinformation and fake news as part of their war propaganda effort. Federal government has charged suspected illegal miners arrested in Kogi and Ondo states during a recent operation led by the mining marshals to court. The operation took place in Angpa local government area, Kogi state, resulting in the arrest of 2 Chinese nationals and a Nigerian for mining activities in violation of existing mining regulations. Also, the mining marshals raided an illegal gold mining site in Odigbo local government area of Ondo State, where 4 suspects were arrested. These individuals caught in the act of illegally mining gold in a government-reserved area confessed during interrogations that they lacked the necessary licenses to carry out their operations. The suspects from both Kogi and Ondo states have since been charged to Federal High Court, Abuja. And that's Panorama. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguwele. Bye.